Wide receivers, they fit. Cyclones found out it's it. Nolan Higgins are excited because they're reunited. Hey, hey. The Houston Texans had to help out their offense, and they went about doing just that in rounds 2 and 3 of the 2025 NFL Draft. Day 2 was going to be a busy one, and Nick Caserio and the Texans made sure it ended up being pretty darn busy. They got started early on, waited till late in the third round. Lots to break down of day 2 and rounds 2 and 3. Hey, if you're watching this Saturday morning, come watch day 3, rounds 4 through 7, with myself and Landry Locker from the locker room out at Karbach Brewing. We'll be there starting at 11 a.m. and take you all the way to the finish of the NFL drafts. Come out and see us. We got some fun giveaways for you. And of course, fantastic food and beverages out there at Karbach. The Texans were sticking and picking after moving back out of the first round. 34 overall for Jaden Higgins, Iowa State wide receiver. Man, Higgins is a really fun player to talk about because when you look at his height, his weight, his size, his speed, his hand size, his arm length, all of those things, you see a lot of Nico Collins. Waiter, I'll take 2 Nico Collins, please. Nico Collins is the top end outcome for a guy like Jaden Higgins. He was uber productive at Iowa State for the Cyclones after starting his football career at Eastern Kentucky. A basketball player that got started in football a little bit later. And to me, he was the top wide receiver on the board as day 2 of the NFL draft got started. I liked him more than Luther Burden. I liked him more than Jaylin Noel, his teammate. I liked him more than Jack Besh, so on and so forth. A bunch of the wide receivers that went on day 2, I liked Higgins more than them. The physical nature of the 2 outside wide receivers that the Texans have now with Nico Collins and Jaden Higgins, man, it is a really fun duo to think about. That was about the best pick I feel like the Texans could have made, especially when the rumors were that wide receivers were going to come off the board pretty quick there in round 2 of the NFL draft. They stayed put at 34. They got Jaden Higgins, and now he'll go to work helping out the Houston Texans on the outside. He can bump down and be successful from the inside as well. But what I loved about talking to Jaden Higgins about football was he has emphasized time and time again throughout his draft process, he wants to be a weapon in the red zone. He wants to go out there and take care of business and put points on the board. Gee, where did the Texans end up sending Kaimi Fairbairn out a ton last year? I don't know, when they got in the red zone. A big body who has reliable hands that can run every route and is fast for his size. And what more could you ask for from the 34th overall pick in the NFL draft? And his ability to understand that red zone football is very different than the rest of the field. That's an underrated element. And it shows you that, hey, when the defense compacts things, he still goes out there to try and make a play and put points on the board. I really liked the Jaden Higgins pick. It was a really, really intriguing selection. And the fact that they could have, even if it's just Nico Collins and Nico Collins light, that is a really intriguing duo for an outside wide receiver duo for the Houston Texans. Man, I really liked the Jaden Higgins pick. It couldn't have gone much better for the Houston Texans there at 34. I probably would have been a little disappointed if they'd taken him at 25, but getting him at 34 after the trade back, acquiring those extra picks, that is certainly a good selection for the Houston Texans. Jaden Higgins, 34, wide receiver out of Iowa State. The Texans were due up on the clock at 58 next in the second round, but they had that additional selection in the third round, 99th overall. They used that pick in 58 to move up to 48. And for anybody that had wanted the Houston Texans to draft offensive linemen, well, they went and got one. And this offensive lineman, he's a big fella. I thought they would target a guard because should be opportunities to start at guard right away for draft picks. I don't know that there's an opportunity to start right away for Aireontae Ersery, but you can certainly see the long-term vision. Now, I'll say right up front, I don't believe Ersery right now is better than Cam Robinson at left tackle. And Ersery has not really ever played anything but left tackle. That's all he played basically for the Minnesota Golden Gophers when his time in Minnesota. So I don't believe he's better than Cam Robinson. Certainly switching positions and going over to the right side, I don't believe he's better than Blake Fisher. I was critical of the selection at the time, and I'm still critical because I don't see the vision for how he helps in 2025. The 2025 season is the most important season for the Houston Texans right now. It's the next season. It's the upcoming season, and I don't know how they're going to put Aireontae Ersery on the field. He doesn't seem like the type of player that's going to be able to play guard at the next level. And again, he's not better than Cam Robinson. Cam Robinson almost played 18 games last year, and he would have after getting traded from Jacksonville to Minnesota if he hadn't sat out because the Jags knew they were going to be able to deal him. But even then, Robinson played the full season last year, and injuries haven't been a huge issue in Robinson's career. But Ersery not being able to help in 2025 doesn't diminish the fact that with a year of seasoning, he could be ready to go and be the starting left tackle for the Houston Texans in 2026. So I certainly understand the long-term prognosis and how useful Ersery is in 2026. Would I have drafted him at 48? Would I have traded up for him? I would not have, because my focus, if I was the general manager, would be about maximizing 2025 with a little bit of an eye on 2026 and the future. This is a draft pick about the future at the tackle position, much like Blake Fisher was a year ago. And I would say a lot of tackles went off the board in the first round. Obviously, Kelvin Banks, Will Campbell, and Armand Mimbu went in the first round. But Donovan Jackson might be able to play tackle. That's another player that went off the board in the first round. Last year, 4 of 5 players that were rookies, that were the best Pro Football Focus pass blockers, were not first rounders. They were second rounders and later. Blake Fisher wasn't one of them, but you don't have to be a first round pick to be a successful player in the National Football League. You don't have to be a first round pick to immediately contribute as a rookie, but you do have to have a position and be able to get on the field. And Aireontae Ersery doesn't currently have a path to getting on the field. Now, if you told me by the end of 2025, Ersery is the starting left tackle, I suppose I would understand that. I would have preferred the Houston Texans to get a guard that could start right away versus a tackle who's not going to be able currently to help you in 2025. I certainly understand the vision for 2026 and beyond. And if you tell me that, I don't know, Tate Ratledge, my favorite guard, hits his best case scenario, well, he's a really good guard for a decade. The best case scenario for Aireontae Ersery, who is a big human being, 6'6", well over 300 pounds, former wrestler in high school. The best case version for Ersery, franchise left tackle. So if he hits his best case and he's a franchise left tackle and Blake Fisher blooms into what he's supposed to be at right tackle, then you've got your tackles back situated and taken care of in 2026 and beyond. You just don't have it totally situated in 2025. But that's conversation for another time. Of course, the Texans are betting on their coaching staff fixing some of the players that are holdovers from 2024 into this season and helping the players that they added in free agency, Cam Robinson, Laken Tomlinson at left guard, as well as the trade for Ed Ingram, and making those players useful players along the offensive line. Plus, you could add a late round guard or two if you wanted to. The Texans still have draft picks for day 3 of the NFL draft. So I get Ersery from the long term. I don't see the picture in the short term. Quick moment here for my friends at The Perfect Jean. 15% off your first order at The Perfect Jean. They're my favorite jeans. It's hard for me to find jeans. It's hard for me to find pants that are comfortable. The Perfect Jean are the most comfortable pants I have ever worn. They are lightweight. They are breathable. Even in cooler weather, we're not having that anytime soon, but even in cooler weather, they keep me warm. I love how stretchy they are. I got the athletic fit. There's a ton of different styles and a ton of different colors for you to try. I got my athletic fit jeans right here. They are so great, so comfortable. Usually I'm a take my jeans off as soon as I get in the house guy. Not the case with the Perfect Jean. 15% off your first order when you use my link in the description down below. Free shipping, free returns and exchanges. What more can you ask for? It's the perfect company that makes the perfect jeans. I found my perfect jeans. You can find your perfect jeans with the perfect jean and get 15% off. Use my link in the description down below. Now back to the football. And then sometimes you hear general managers talk about, well, you just got to trust your board. Yeah, you trust your board. Who's at the top of your board? Draft who's at the top of your board. The Houston Texans probably should have double dipped at wide receiver in this draft, regardless of when they started to take them. 2 was a good move for the Texans as you start to think about and estimate what they bring to the table as far as a wide receiver group right now. I don't know that in anybody's wildest dreams they would have imagined they would reunite Jaden Higgins with Jaylin Noel. And that's exactly what they did with the 79th overall pick. Credit to my colleague Landry Locker in the locker room, who about 20 picks before this said, yeah, hey, why not just get Jaylin Noel and reunite him with his teammate from Iowa State, Jaden Higgins. And that's exactly what the Texans did. Remember earlier when I told you that there was a lot of Nico Collins to Jaden Higgins' game? Well, the pro comp for Jaylin Noel is Christian Kirk. So while I have 2 Nico Collins, please, what would you want? Oh, I have 2 Christian Kirks, please. And Noel actually helps out a ton because not only do you have Higgins now under contract for the next few seasons, obviously Nico Collins, you've got Noel, who might need a little time adjusting to the NFL, learning from, well, you guessed it, Christian Kirk, the player that he is comped to by a lot of draft prognosticators. So he's got the ability to kind of follow a true professional like Christian Kirk around, learn from him. And if Kirk is only a 1-year commitment for the Houston Texans, Noel fits right in there. Now, he is speedy, man. He got to work for the in the offseason, showcasing that speed, and you can see it when he plays for Iowa State. He also has helped on special teams, though I don't know exactly how useful or how helpful special teams in college is in the pros, because punters are so good now and the kickoff is very different. So that's maybe a small positive, but I can't sit here and tell you that it's a huge positive here for Jaylin Noel. But he's a speedy guy and can win from the slot. In a pinch, he could help you outside, just like Christian Kirk could. And I just like the idea of him being able to lightly contribute initially for this team and then go about really ascending to that slot wide receiver role in 2026. And now when you start to think about it, second year Jaylin Noel, second year Jaden Higgins, another year of Nico Collins, CJ Stroud, as he grows into the quarterback position, he should have a lot of familiar wide receivers around in the coming years. Continue to build that relationship with those wide receivers, continue to trust them, and it should make them even better, and better. I'm shocked that Noel was available in the 3rd round. I'm shocked that he fell to the Texans. I wouldn't say shocked about them taking him because, again, they should have double dipped on wide receiver, and to be able to double dip for 2 guys that they respect the program where they come from, it was a really good pick. I see the vision. That's my big thing with Aireontae Ersery. I see the long-term vision. I don't see the short-term. I see the short and the long-term from Jaylin Noel. Plus, special teams usefulness, never going to be bad for a guy that kind of slots into the 4th or maybe 5th part on the depth chart right away as a rookie. Hey, get on the field playing some special teams. Texans have a really good special teams coach in Frank Ross that can maybe find out how to use Noel in the kicking game right away and give him an opportunity to showcase some of that athleticism for the Houston Texans. So that was the 3 members of the draft class so far that were on offense. Jaden Higgins at 34, the tackle from Minnesota, Aireontae Ersery at 48, 79. Jaylin Noel, the teammate of Jaden Higgins. And then the Houston Texans did some moving and shaking, and they went from 89 to right past 100. But ultimately, they end up back at 97, and they take cornerback Jaylen Smith. Yeah, Jaden Higgins, Jaylin Noel, Jaylen Smith. Okay, a lot of J names here so far. Aireontae Ersery? No, he's got an A. Ersery is a cool name. I like that. But Jaylen Smith, cornerback, nickel cornerback, defensive back for the USC Trojans, was the 97th overall pick. Now, this one is one of the players that had a unique grade. But we've seen some teams take some players in some unfamiliar or unexpected places throughout the course of the third round. Smith falls into that category. Daniel Jeremiah from the NFL Network had him rated about 114 on his top 150, but a lot of other draft prognosticators thought he was a late day 3 pick. Smith is a smaller cornerback from USC, 5'11", 187 pounds. He's dealt with some injury issues in his time at USC, but he's not afraid to get in there and mix it up. He uses his athleticism to a large degree. He's a former four-star recruit before he ended up with the Trojans. So you usually have a lot of athleticism when you're a 4 or 5-star recruit, and he has been able to use that to showcase what he brings to the table. A couple of interceptions for the Trojans this past year, and a familiarity, obviously, with Kalen Bullock. And if you thought about what USC has done on defense the past few years, you haven't been super impressed, okay? In fact, it's kind of sucked. So maybe, just maybe, there's a little untapped potential to Smith. I do worry about his size if he's going to bump in there and be a nickel cornerback, but he feels like he could fulfill the coverage aspect of the nickel cornerback versus Jalen Petrie helping around the line of scrimmage. So he may have a backup role at nickel and cornerback right away. Long-term, perhaps he's a backup option to Kamari Lassiter and to Derek Stingley on the outside. In the short term, Jaylen Smith, you have to use that athleticism to help out on special teams. A late third-round pick is going to be on the team. Bill Parcells always used to ask, what can I use you for on game day right away? Jaylen Smith on game day right away. He's a backup when the defense is out there. He could be a starter when the special teams is out there. That's the initial role for him. Would I have preferred maybe a running back here, maybe an offensive lineman on the interior here, even a defensive tackle in a very deep defensive tackle class? The answer is yes to all of that. I certainly understand adding depth. They felt conviction about this player, and they felt the same way about Kalen Bullock last year. Prognosticators had him rated a little bit lower. He turned out to be a really nice player. Jaylen Smith rated much lower from a lot of the draft people. If he turns into a key backup for this team, it could end up being a solid pick. We saw some pretty curious third-round selections from teams, so it's not that crazy that Jaylen Smith ended up being a third-round pick. Still have rounds 4, 5, 6, and 7. Still have late picks in this one. Plus, if the Texans are feeling froggy and they want to jump up from where they currently sit in day 3, they've got that extra draft capital in next year's draft if they want to use that. I'd still be looking for a running back if I was the Houston Texans, some interior offensive line help, and maybe, just maybe, getting D'Amico Ryans, one of those defensive linemen that is still hanging around. But they helped out the offense. Wide receiver and offensive line were their top needs when they entered the offseason. They were still their top needs after free agency. Now those needs have been addressed. Just don't talk to Nick Caserio about needs. That's not how he operates, and he's made it very clear. They don't draft for need. What does drafting for need even mean? Nick Caserio pondered on Friday night. I'm not trying to answer that question, but I do know they've got more depth at key important positions on the offense, wide receiver and offensive tackle. No grades. The grades come in at the end of the assignment, and they come in at the end of the draft. So let's see what the Texans can do on day 3. But I'm thumbs up on the 2 Iowa State players. Thumbs up. And as I said earlier, anytime you can get me 2 Nico Collinses and 2 Christian Kirks, even if it's Christian Kirk light and Nico Collins light, I'm thumbs up on that. I'm thumbs sideways on Aireontae Ersery because I would have used that selection to help out more in 2025. Perhaps I have him pegged incorrectly, and he is not going to be a backup for most of 2025. I thought the same thing about Blake Fisher last year. Next thing you know, bing, bang, boom, he's a starter before the end of the year. Jaylen Smith, I would go probably thumbs down on this. I don't know that they needed to address backup cornerback there. Perhaps they could have gotten him a little bit later. A running back made more sense. An interior offensive lineman made more sense. Again, actual grades come out, and as I think about it a little bit more, maybe that changes a little bit, but we'll go thumbs down on Jaylen Smith's selection by the Texans, especially trading up for Jaylen Smith and using some of those early day 3 selections to do that. Kind of changed the day 3 availability of picks. So we'll go thumbs down on Jaylen Smith. Overall, productive draft so far for the Texans. They can fill it out after that. The understanding of the team will be a bit clearer once you see the draft picks finally come off the board. You never know exactly what Nick Caserio is going to get up to. He's trading up all the time, it feels like. So I wouldn't expect him to be sitting on his hands and have his phone on silent for the final day of the 2025 NFL Draft. And when he does make a move, hopefully you're there at Karbach Brewing hanging out with us to watch it. I appreciate you watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you go visit my friends over at The Perfect Jean. Get that 15% off on the best jeans around. So many different styles and colors. You'll find the perfect jean for you, just like I found the perfect jean for me. Appreciate them for sponsoring this video. Appreciate you for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. And I can't wait till we talk Texans again soon.